Hi, this is Chris Angle of the RITE Report, and with me is my colleague and co-host Rick Samuelson. Rick graduated from Yale and has an MBA from Wharton, and he's an independent venture capitalist. Good to see you, Rick.
And you?
The purpose of the RITE Report is to forecast what's going to happen in the market in the coming 3 or 4 weeks. And today we're going to take a look at the current version of the RITE Report and see what it holds in this turbulent times. So the RITE Report starts out with snippets from the U.S. government and newspapers and publishers of news, and it divides it up into positive and negative types of news. And if we take a look at the news in March and February, we see that only 5 snippets were negative, and positive snippets were about 11. So that's a pretty good ratio, and it looks like it was 69% to 31%. And then we, in the RITE Report, we do an economic analysis. We take 26 indicators of coming from the government and other types of economic indicators, such as high-yield bonds. That was negative over the last month. We looked at February of the iShares Select Dividends. We see that was negative. We look at the ISM Purchasing Managers Index. That was expanding, just barely, but expanding, so that's positive. In construction, in March, from the U.S. Census, the construction spending during January was up, and 1.8% above the revised December estimate, and the January figure is 6.8% above the January 2019 estimate. So that's definitely positive news. And the unemployment from the BLS, Bureau of Labor Standards, that was positive news over the last month. And the productivity, also from the Bureau of Labor Standards, showed that it was half positive news and half negative news. And quarterly financial report from the U.S. Census. U.S. manufacturing corporations after-tax profits in the third quarter was up 5.1 billion, and but down 2.6 billion from after-tax profits recorded in the third quarter of 2018. But we're going to still put that in the positive plus because of the first half of this news. Retail sales were up, an increase of 0.3%. Manufacturing, trade inventories, and sales was negative. It was down 0.1%. And the velocity of money, a very important indicator, was down, and that's been down a lot for over the last 10 years. New residential construction, that's positive. It's 6.4% above the revised December figure, and the Conference Board leading economic indicators, they've increased last month, so that's positive. And their coincident economic indicators, they increased, that's positive. So new residential sales also, sales of new single-family homes in January 2020. Let's see, this is 7.9% above the revised December rate. Okay, great, positive. Advanced report on durable goods, manufacturer shipments, inventories, and orders. new orders for manufacturing goods in December decreased, but excluding transportation, new orders increased 0.9%. So in spite of that, we're still going to put it as a decrease, and we're going to make it a negative. The existing home sales is down 1.3%, so that's negative, and the real GDP positive 2.1%. Personal expenditure, consumption expenditures up 0.6%. Personal income up 0.6%. The restaurant performance indicator is still expanding at 101.8, and corporate profits have decreased in the third quarter, and manufacturers' shipments, inventories, and orders had decreased in January, and the world trade volume has increased though 0.3% in December. So a summary of that is 16 positive, 9 negative, and 1 neutral. Not bad. So we take overlooking the entire economic scene, it does seem to be pretty positive. But of course, we've got the coronavirus, and if we add that into the mix, it doesn't look so good because of all the negative news coming in from the coronavirus. So if we so we've made an index, and of the RITE report, and in the beginning of March it has fallen to 26.7%, down from 44.3%. And so we've come to a conclusion here at the RITE report that even though the index has depreciated, and the RITE report has but positive of 16 of 26 economic indicators being positive, with the RITE report falling to 26.4 due to the news on the coronavirus, we recommend that investors stay neutral until the spread of the coronavirus begins to abate. And what we mean by neutral is go to cash. So with that said, let's ask Rick what he thinks from his side of the coast up there on the west coast, up there in Seattle. Rick, what do you think about the economic situation, the stock market predictions going forward?
Well, I think panic reigns at the moment, but there's some good news coming out of Wuhan, China. People are getting back to work. The number of new cases has abated dramatically, and I suspect, particularly as weather warms up in the U.S., you're going to see the same thing over the next month or two. Obviously, we're a bit late putting in the draconian red zone measures compared to China and Korea, for example. So you've got to expect it's going to get worse before it gets better. And so the front page news is going to be pretty discouraging, with the number of deaths going up probably every day, more outbreaks all over the U.S. and so forth. I do think that if the market isn't oversold yet, it's probably going to be oversold pretty soon, certainly over the next month. So I think as we look out toward the summer, there are going to be ample buying opportunities. It's not obvious to me that this is a permanent dislocation. It's more severe than the SARS virus was, obviously. But in terms of a fundamental financial dislocation, we're not seeing the kind of disruption we saw during the financial crisis, with a whole category of financial instruments being mispriced in terms of risk, and a huge one at that. there may be some excesses. The valuations were due for an adjustment. They were stretched. Venture capital, my business, is going to take a big hit. Already has. You're going to see a bunch of venture capital firms go out of business. But we were probably due for an adjustment anyways, at least on the valuation front. And I think the economy's fundamentally sound. The United States in particular is still the center of the world in terms of innovation. China's catching up. Other places are catching up, but the United States still leads. And I see evidence of that all around. I don't see any decline yet in the number of new companies and new technologies being introduced. So, yeah, it's going to be a difficult summer, most likely, but I think by autumn, the United States will be showing strong signs of recovery.
So you say you think it's the time for being oversold is shortly coming. How fast do you think the market will recover?
I wouldn't be surprised to see it at least stabilizing and recovering over the summer. I know that's not what normally happens, sell in May and go away, but I think you're going to find, I suspect, that certainly with the technology companies, and we're seeing this in Seattle already, the hit to productivity is going to be less than is factored in at the moment. People, particularly with technology companies, can work from home. Zoom in particular, but there are a lot of products like Zoom, is excellent. We're having virtual meetings, and maybe they're not as effective as face-to-face, but then you're not wasting time in traffic either. So I think on balance, you're going to find companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and others, Apple, sail through this relatively unscathed. And I think you're going to find that their potential efficiencies in the economy are going to be recognized for the first time. For example, on the educational front, my kids right now, at the moment, are doing all of their schooling online. And it's working. And a lot of kids are doing the same thing across the country. And I think you're going to find that the adoption of online learning in particular is going to really accelerate after this experience. There's an article in the Wall Street Journal, I think yesterday, proposing that parents may not want to spend $70,000, $80,000 a year on a college education if they can spend a tenth of that and do it online, and it's more or less just as effective. And I think these are the kinds of winners for the economy, frankly, that could really accelerate a transition to a more virtually orientated, but still pretty efficient economic model. Now, that's not going to work for manufacturing as well, but even on the manufacturing front, I'm seeing technologies come into play that allow you to automate a lot of activities, and certainly in IoT, for example, to manage far-flung manufacturing operations much more efficiently off a computer than was ever possible having staff on site.
Okay. Rick, thanks for that insight, and we'll see everybody next month on another edition of the RITE Report. Thank you.
Thank you.